Hawa, Hawa. Watah to the family, Watah to the tribe. Welcome back for another episode of Templar Up. I'm your host, the Templar, Urban Reed. Thank you for surfing the wave with me, because I've been surfing the wave with you. And we're going to do a part 2 to this wave in review. If you haven't dug on it, I hope you go back and catch part 1. I'm going to try to move it a little bit further along. It's just that it's so much information that we've been digging on that only until now has really all come together and coalesced to make so much more sense than we could ever imagine. And when we last popped off, we were just simply bringing it together and laying down the groundwork about the wandering Jew, your last noble image, el Prestor John. You know, his name itself is important. And his name is, and the reason why that is because of the sequence of the wording. You see, when it comes down to the Prestor, King David was your last patriarch and first exarch. He represents the end of the age of the patriarchs. You see, before Prestor John, there were the John Prestors. See, there's a similar but different when it comes down to a priest king and a king priest. And we have fallen victim to trying to hold on to the right, wrong, old ways. And I know that sounds crazy, but it is a synthesis of a thing. It is the synthesis of a thing. You see, when we were breaking it all down about Exodus 20 got us in code, right? Exodus 20 is the code that we stand on. But there's more to that. If you've been digging on the Prestor John 100, and I think also in 101, you know, we discovered, or it would appear that Anion and Kiliab had a disagreement in how they interpret the law. They didn't disagree on the code, but the interpretation or the implementation of the code. So when we say keep the code, what does keep mean? Right? keep, to seize, to hold, to seek after, to desire. We're only talking about a romance. We're only talking about an ancient love song. To observe or carry out in practice. You see, it means you have to actually do it. You know, the cliche actions speak louder than words. You have to look out for. You have to regard. You have to what? Pay attention. Shalaki. And what? The action is of uncertain origin. Remember, to keep the code, right, is to look from the root to cap, and we covered this. To keep is to guard, to defend. At the time of Prestor John, the census exploded in Middle English. To guard, to defend. Sirsa, 12th century, talking the 1100s. Let's go back. Can you get more accurate? Can you get more precise? I'm gonna ask you again. Can you get more accurate? Can you get more precise? When we're talking about keeping the code and it being linked to the Prestor. Come on, man. No cap on Antarctica's chest bone. To keep is to care or heed in watching. Dragons on the wall. But what is also a keep as a person, place, or thing? Well, to keep as a person is the Prestor. But to keep as a thing is a innermost stronghold or central tower of a castle. Do you follow? We're only talking about keeping the code. See where it takes us. Just curiosity. To cap, to grasp. Forearms all over part of what? Talking about recovering the Holy Land. What recovering are we talking about? Are we talking about the reflooding of the Holy Land? When we talk about the 1800s, when we talk about a dragon canoe, when we talk about the Ice Age, or recovering meaning to seize again, to take hold again. Right? We covered this in the flow. And every time we do, it keeps bringing us back to certain key words in the etymology. So we're only talking about you not having a prince. You don't have a king. You don't have the ephod. Right? We're only talking about the race that gave chase to you to be captured. Right? Seek out. Dum Diversus 1452. Right? The drop that keeps on giving. Dum Diversus 1452. But we're only talking about what? Talking about the content. The content. Talking about the Saracens, right? But we're also talking about the pagans. Or the archons, right? And any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, wherever they may be. That means anybody else who is willing to choose up. Now check this out, pay attention. When you're talking kingdoms, you're talking who are the royals. When you're talking duchies, you're talking who are the nobles. You understand? This is all important because it's necessary to have there's such an importance of having fundamental building structure, and it doesn't matter if it's the investigation. It doesn't matter if we're talking about masonry, carpentry. If we're talking any type of quote unquote structure, has to still follow a fundamental building structure. Okay? Meaning that if it's a law, then it's applicable to all fields. That means if it's a law, it has to remain true. There's no variation, so to speak, or deviation. I think it's variation, if I'm using the correct wording. Examples of what I'm talking about would be platonic solids, right? We're talking fractals. We're talking the golden mean or the golden ratio. Now, in philosophy, it states that what? The golden mean, or the golden middle way, is described as desirable middle between two extremities. Why do you think they tell you that you can't, there's a difference between pre-Columbian history and post-Columbian history? There's a difference between the pre-Galfridian text and the post-Galfridian text. This is why the Dark Ages are within the Middle Ages. And when you read it, is what? Two extremities. The history of the Middle Ages and the history of the Dark Ages. You'll think you're talking about two different worlds. But we're not talking about the coming together of opposites. But when you're talking about the golden mean, right? Who are we talking about? We're talking about Rambam, or Moses Maimonides. When is he popping off? What's those dates say? Come on, man. Come on, man. But when you're talking about the golden mean, you're talking about the golden ratio, right? What are we talking about? We're talking about pi. We are talking about pi. But notice, mathematics and arts related in a variety of ways. Mathematics has itself been described as an art motivated by beauty. Mathematics can be discerned in art such as music, dance, painting, architecture, sculpture, and textiles. Right? Blue, purple, red, white linen, gold thread. We're talking about being a dragon on the wall. We're talking about Miriam being the first to create the dance and music. We're talking about that Queen Khalifa flow. We're talking about that Aaron flow. We're talking about that O'Shea flow. But we're also talking about the nine, right? We're also talking about the everything and the no thing, and the symmetry of nine. We're also talking about archetypes. We're talking about vibration. We're talking about scales. Uh-oh. Fix that. Sorry about that. What's the scale? Shalaki. When we're talking about emptying your cup, all right? Your shell. We're only talking about Turtle Island. We're talking about to split, to divide. Come on, man. The drinking cup, the bowl, right? The scale to cut. But who has which house, which tribe symbol is the scale? Well, we should know that by now. We're only talking about the scale, right? We're only talking about the tribe of Dan. But the alternative symbol for the tribe of Dan is also the serpent. Right. We're only talking Leviathan, right? Right. But understanding this, you understand that you are able to apply basic principles to quote unquote higher learnings, higher thoughts. Since we get mappy, what is this? This looks like it's kind of juicy. Try DNA. I don't want that. I want this image. Super small. I wonder what map this is. Terra del what? I wonder, is this the image from our Terra Sancta map? Is this a blow up of that map? Interesting. Another way to surf. Make sure I remember that link. So, with that being said, when you're talking about fundamental building structures, we're talking about law as a force or a particle, right? This is why we make sure we dig on this is why we dig on the double slit experiment. Now you can see the Shalaki, the temple being built. This is why we dug on it. This is why it's important for you to get on that ether bus with natural by law. Because although it seems supernatural, it's only natural by law. Shout out to the bro. But this is why we also dig on our tribal mafia flow. You know, this is why we honor my Jigga when he's popping off, giving us that vibe, and Isaac Ford tuning us up, you know, and the whole nine, and Natural by Law, Yosef, Nine Spiral, Carameo, Brother King, of course, you know, give me that tribal flow. You know what I'm saying? We need that tribal flow. You know, believe it or not, that takes us back into our Miriam flow. It takes us back into the Exodus. But when you understand it, now we talking about water bending. Now we talking about that airbender type flow, right? See where we at.
And this is what the Mormons are validating, more than one witness, right? But the legend of Kittikoi is of interest as an element to support the book of Mormon. Why would a rainbow dragon be so important? Why would the Quetzal be so important? Who is Quetzal? He is another name because of Israel the third, Israel the fourth, and the forbidden histories of a man, and he's called Israel the fourth of another son. He's also named Israel. Under the title of Israel. Who else would be right? Joshua, leader of Israel. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Because you know about Joshua, right? Come on, man. We're talking about the three better Jews, right? We're only talking about Joshua. Now, why is this all important? Because we're talking about comprehending the art, the science, the craft, the magic of storytelling. You know, how a word is defined and a word at its root. You're talking about word, the spell, right? Versus word, the sound. Using isolated definitions to manipulate understanding and truth is what we've been subject to. So when you hear someone talking about a comet or a meteor or a dragon, your isolated thought creates an image so that you only recognize one thing, although a limited thing. This is why I'm a big fan of a lot of anime, because a lot of anime, they present a lot of archetypes and stories, a lot of narratives, but they present it where it's the same truth by definition, although the projecting, what you get, what's being projected is something that you probably would appear fantastical in nature to imagine. You know, Kamehameha, or your Naruto, right? Man of Fire. The village hidden in the leaf. Right. And with that being said, there's a sequence to determine structure. You know, so what is history? Then what is a story? What is a romance? What is a hero? What is a villain? What is an archetype? And what's a stereotype? The root word means type, right? You see, phantoms and duplicates become self-evident while pointing to the same origin source, which is always forgotten or unknown, which we were digging on. Now you say what, I say when. You say who, I say where. You say why, and I say how. There lies a different importance in when something happens. You see, it's a lot different to say that the Exodus happened in 800, 1200 BC versus it happening in 1800. You see, it's a different, something else is going on if the flood just happened less than 400 years ago versus it happening in antiquity. You know, this is why when digging on the maps and you're talking about Prestor John being on your map, right here in America, the furthest east, India Superior, and then when you're talking about an American, you see, this makes a whole heck of a lot more sense when you understand Tecumseh and Dragon Canoe and this all happened and this being all recent. Your tardy ma was recent. They found you knocked out, not knowing who you were. Now, I mean, what I'm going to do here for the dismount here, finish things off. I want to dismount with this here. I wanted to dismount with what's an age? And this is very important. And to Watah for surfing the wave with me to this point. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this flow as we ramp things up for the fifth wave coming in hot. But I need you to get these basics. I need you to understand this. This is why I always pop off about the timelines. This is why I'm always popping off about the etymology. How things fit together. What's an age? Age is a long but indefinite period in human history. Age, life, lifetime, lifespan, maturity. Your dad. Almost sound like Eldad. The Etta. Right? Age. Period of life. Age. Lifetime. Years. Lifetime. Eternity. Forever. Age. From the pi. Iowa. Or I. Right? The vital force. Life. Long life. Eternity. Right? Expelled native eld. Right? Old age and age. Age as a period of life, meaning time. Something has lived particular length or stage of life. Especially used for old age, the effects of old age, feebleness, senility, etc. Right? In geology, right, in a science, it represents a great period in history of Earth. When? When was the Civil War? When did Dragon Canoe and Tecumseh pop off? Uh-oh. In archaeology, this is why we dug on the forbidden archaeology. 1865, we're talking about what? Now you're naming the periods, the Stone Age, right? And we dug on that because you have to understand how the different sciences filters the information based upon the science to fit that particular science narrative. But when you're talking about an age, you're only talking about what? A century. A century or 100 years is an age. You get that? So when you talk about the first age of man and the second age and the third age, or we're digging on these, I think it's the Hopi, right? And the Native Americans and other Aboriginal tribes telling you that this is the fourth age, or we're in the fifth age, or this is the end of the age, 20, the return of Nibiru and 2012 and the end of the age. You keep hearing this. What are we talking about? We're talking about the end of a 100-year time period. So when they say that the world, Hawa created the world, created everything in 7 days, in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. Well, 1,000 years is like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years. But from your perspective, it would be a century. This is why everything has been stonewalled behind this word magic, as you understand it to be an age. All the stuff that's happened did not happen that long ago, but it feels like an eternity ago. Let's dig on the pie. When you're talking about an age, you're talking about something, you're talking about anything, but you're also talking about the no, right? The nay, the what? The medieval, right? Talking about the primeval, the septum, the septernal. Talking utopia, right? You're talking about the eon, the each, the longevity. How many times did Prestor John dip in the fountain of youth and still going strong to this day? He dipped in the water 6 times, returning to the age of 32. He was 562, 590 something, and still going strong. Did a black man discover the fountain of youth? This is why there are phantoms and their duplications. But greater still, you have archetypes. The archetype is what proves primary sources as secondary. Again, the archetypes prove the primary sources as secondary. This is why you don't have the word job before the man Job walked the earth. The word did not exist. There is no Mary without there being a Miriam. Period. No one has to question where you are on the planet. The sound of a person calling out for his mother. Ma, ama, mama, mami, ma, mama. It's all the same vibration. And it always will be. For the dismount. Let's quickly look up archetype. You hear me say this and use this word a lot, so let's get it for the dismount. Model, first form, original pattern from which copies are made. We're only talking phantoms and duplications, right? The pattern, the model. What's the pattern? The 9. Who is the model? Prestor John. Figure on a seal. Now we're only talking about the dollar bill, y'all. Your currency. There's 2 different seals. The seal of Jacob and the seal of Esau. So there's a covenant there that marks a beginning, an origin, a first place. It leads to your archons, right? Plus type, model, type, blow, mark of a blow, type, right? The archon, one of 9 chief matches of ancient Athens. Is it Greek or is it Greek? When? 1650s. And I totally told you your first drop-off was 333 years ago. And that's 333 years from 1976, which leads you to 1643. This is when all this popped off, your first drop-off. But what are we talking about? When we talk about archon, right? We're talking about a ruler, a commander, a chief, a captain. To be the first, thus to begin from or with, to rule, lead the way, govern. You've gone many, many days without a priest, many days without a king. But what are we talking about? We're talking about a type, we're talking about a symbol, an emblem. This is important to understand why Prestor John is your last noble image. It's all in the word magic. Circa 1200s, meaning from about 1150 to circa 1200. So that means the 1100s, 1101 to 1199. The latest, the final, following all others. A contraction of the Old English latos, the slowest, the latest. Meaning last in space. Right? Furthest, most remote, most unlikely or unsuitable. Meaning most recent. What? Meaning most recent. The next before present. The next before present. So when you say Prestor John is your last noble image, what do we mean and what are we talking about? I think we're going to cut it off right here. Again, thank you for surfing the wave with me, because I'm surfing the wave with you. And I might just do a quick drop for this last part that I had, and probably use that as a launching point to begin the 5th wave. And we're going to talk about words made flesh, or flesh made words. Suit up. Cheese up. You're coming in hot. I love y'all. Peace.